Hey, Newsa-Cast listeners. Just want to give you a little information about the mission of the Newsa-Cast. Our mission stems from the mission of the Red Smith Banquet, and that mission was to support youth sports in the Fox Valley. Over the 57 years of its existence, we've been honored to give out over $1 million to various youth sports organizations throughout the Fox Valley. The Newsa-Cast is looking to continue that mission and support youth sports as well. You can help us do that by donating to the Newsa-Cast and the Red Smith Sports Banquet.
On today's Newsa-Cast, we end our series of Mile of Music artists, the great Ben Mulwana. Tosh and I had a great conversation with Ben. Check him out at Tosh and I Take an Old Look at New, presented by Raleigh Winter and Associates, our Red Smith Banquet Throwback. You folks are in for a treat. It's my first interview ever. PBA bowler Sean Rash. Tosh and I end the show like we always do with some It's Forgotten and I'm Never Forgetting. So what do you say, folks? Let's get this show on the road.
When did you know that this is something you wanted to continue doing?
That's a tough question. I think at first it looked cool, right? I started playing guitar to impress this girl. I really liked it. I was like, man, I didn't even remember what we were talking about. She just said, I really like guitar players. And I'm like, come on. I guess I have to, go and do some homework. And I went YouTube and I, like, okay, let me look up like the songs that I really love. I'm going to play this song.
Did it work?
No.
Welcome to the Newsa-Cast. What is a Newsa-Cast? It's where we bring local folk stories to life through conversation.
All right, Newsa-Cast listeners, it is time for another episode of everybody's favorite podcast, the Newsa-Cast. And we are hitting the last of our Mile of Music interviews. We had the pleasure of sitting down with some of the artists. And this week you're going to hear from, it was incredible. His story is amazing. Ben Mulwana, and he actually comes from Uganda by way of Kenosha now.
Yeah, absolutely, Tosh. And people are going to be amazed. My memory, I'm digging deep to try to remember this one back in Mile of Music 2 months ago. But it's happening, Tosh. It was a great one. We had a great series, right, with Carsey Blanton. It started with Dave Willems and Kim Willems. And we've had a lot of the Mile team on. We've had some of the artists on. And go back and check those out in our archive. But, yeah, we're excited. Ben, that was an awesome afternoon with him. What an engaging guy.
Yeah, and if you haven't seen him, you got to check him out. Or check out his Spotify, wherever you can listen to his music, because he's got a great voice, great band right now. They're fantastic. They're really hitting it. So, highly recommend listening to our podcast and then hitting him up and listening to his music.
That's right, Tosh. That's right. We understand we have to instruct the people, right? Yeah. You hit like and subscribe. You listen to the Newsa-Cast. You don't have to listen to it the week it comes out. I was telling one of my buddies at work, Tosh, the other day, the beauty of a podcast is you can fall behind 3-4 weeks. You can catch up.
Exactly.
There's no rules. There's no rules.
Or you can fall behind like a year or two and catch up on all of them and finally get caught up.
Binging, I think they call that, right?
I've done that a little bit as well.
Yeah.
As after some suggestions from Eric Eastman, and if you'd like to go listen to that one a couple weeks ago, that was fantastic as well as last week. You can check that out as well. Respecting the Beer, great people from McFleischman's is awesome. So if you're,
the cool thing, Tosh, is all of those, including the Newsa-Cast, we're all involved in a podcasting co-op, and they meet at McFleischman's once a month, and it's pretty cool. I went to one they actually record a lot of those, and it's pretty cool that there's a lot of people. Well, not a lot, but there's several people in the area doing podcasts, including our own producer Taylor.
Yeah, absolutely.
He has a podcast, Packer Universe. Tough game this week, Tosh, but those guys will cover it. But being the masterful transition folks that we are, Tosh, sometimes we pull these things off. Speaking of Taylor, our producer, him and his wife, Lindsay, they put together a really, really cool I don't know what you call it, Tosh, I guess a short doc, put it out on Reels, put it on our Newsa-Cast socials. But Taylor got his hair cut for cancer and locks for cancer. And he put together his journey in video form, and it was pretty darn cool. So I highly suggest you go take a look at that.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Peaceful Purpose makes the wigs for people who have medical issues, and it's a great organization. Highly recommend checking that out too. Donating, it doesn't have to be your hair. Somebody like myself would not be able to do that, but you can donate money. You can donate to the cause. So definitely check that out. It was fantastic, and big shout out to Taylor for doing that.
Yeah, definitely. Maybe I'll do that, but I'm going to wait a while, Tash. I want to get to 60 with dread, so I've got a long time to wait for that.
Long time. Absolutely.
Long time for that.
Well, we had a great event in Appleton. We had the car show, License to Cruise, and Saturday was the kickoff to Oktoberfest. And I read an article, and these numbers are mind-blowing to me, but they said 200,000 people attended Saturday.
Tosh, I believe it. I mean, just trying to get to the post office for my job was a challenge, both of those days. But I mean, you cannot ask for better weather. That's the key to these events for sure. It was absolutely perfect. And I tell you, from my perspective, I wasn't able to go. I know you were, but I was on a mail route that was just on the other side of the river. And I have to say, I enjoyed watching all the folks walk to downtown. A lot of people parked on south of the river and walked across the bridge. That's little key. That's a good place. That's a good spot to park. But I had even more fun, Tosh, later at night at like 5, 6, 7 o'clock at night, watching those same people walk back home or try to walk back home. That was entertaining.
Yeah, stumble back home maybe.
Had the old wobbly boot on, Tosh.
Well, that's what happens when you have a few too many Oktoberfests, right?
Yeah, a few. Yes. You get the wobbly boot.
Yeah.
And at least they weren't driving. That I noticed. They were walking.
That's good. Well, you know what?
Kudos to them.
It is a great event, and it does. It supports so many nonprofits in the entire area. I know the amount of money that was lost during COVID when Oktoberfest didn't happen was tremendous. So yeah, it was great to see a huge event like that. Tons of people out, lots of good music. I got to see a little bit of a listening party. One and only Eric Krieger, who's been on this podcast as well. They had a great set.
Great plug.
Yeah, great set as well. And they were fantastic. So, awesome event. It was a beautiful day. We got some good food, got some good people watching. And I think that pretty much sums up Oktoberfest, right?
That's the best, isn't it, Tosh? People watching.
Yeah, absolutely. We had to leave early, though, because Ethan had homecoming. And so we had to get him home and get all his stuff ironed, which I did for him lovingly, and got him all set so he could take pictures down at Pullman's, and they went to dinner at Pullman's. But wonderful group of young people, and they had some nice time taking pictures and a good meal, and they said Oktoberfest. They said homecoming was a blast, so they had a good time.
No, that's great. Amelia, too, my daughter, she went exact same thing, Tosh, and took the pictures not too far from you on one of the trestle bridges. And made a beautiful day, too, for homecoming,
absolutely.
Right?
And I know it wasn't quite the finish that North wanted, but FVL pulled out, beat the undefeated Seymour Thunder in a really wonderful game. It was they've had 3 games the last 3 weeks that have just been 1-point games. It's just been fantastic to watch. So, but this time they got to pull one out, and that's a big, huge win for them as they make the push to the playoffs.
No, absolutely. Tosh, I would say for anybody out there, it is crazy the amount of points FEL is scoring. Yeah. I mean, their offense is absolutely lethal. I know they've lost a couple of tight games, but holy cow, that team, that's the game. If you see FEL playing, do yourself a favor and go check them out. It's going to be what do you call it, Tosh? A race.
It's going to be a race for sure. And speaking of races, there's lots of good games in the FVA as well. Nina is proven to be on a run. They're a good team. Kimberly always puts up good numbers. Kakana's looking good. I mean,
Absolutely.
uh,
Our alma mater, Tosh, Appleton West, pulled out a
Yeah.
nail biter, 36-35. They've strung together a couple of wins
yeah,
as well.
that's good to
so
see. They've been
they're-
down for the last few
Yeah.
years, so it's good to see them
Or
pull out.
decades.
Yeah, or decades, exactly. And I have, as one of my duties, Oshkosh North is homecoming this week. So
Oh,
I've got
yeah.
the parade, I've got the game, I've got the dance, I've got dress up
Ah.
days starting. So yeah, fun
So
time.
do you miss the classroom, Tosh?
You know what? It's different. Some ways I'd like the classroom because I knew what I was doing. In other ways, so that was nice. But I do love what I'm doing. I love the people I'm working with. They're fantastic. And it's been a good transition. Definitely.
Well, welcome to my world of not knowing what you're doing.
Yeah.
It's a scary place to live
It
sometimes.
is a scary place to live. So that is true. Very, very scary. But
Mhm.
yeah, so that's my week ahead. How about yourself, Joe? Anything you looking forward to this week?
No, not really, Tosh. I did want to shout out though one of the Red Smith committee members, Nick Salm. I know Nick's a fan of the Newsa-Cast too. He has a place in Florida. They got hit by that hurricane, and he now has an upside down boat in one of
Yeah.
the canals. So shout out Nick. Hope things go well. And
Yeah, that was
it's never fun to deal with the insurance man,
No.
is it?
And that was devastating hurricane. I mean, for the people of Florida, but also for the people of the Appalachians. I mean, one of my favorite cities in the United States, Asheville, North Carolina, got hammered.
Yeah.
So lots of flooding issues throughout the country. You wouldn't think the middle of the United States is going to get hit by a hurricane, but they got hit by the remnants, and it caused some major flooding issues as well. So
Yeah, it really did. I know. Well, we did all right with the weather. I feel bad, but you're right. That happens
Mhm.
sometimes. Those inland states, you get 18 inches of rain dumped on you in 24
Yeah.
hours. Good luck.
yeah, exactly. So luckily, we don't have to deal with that because there's no rain in the forecast for like the next week.
No, it's bone
It is.
dry, Tash. Being one that doesn't like to cut the lawn anymore, I'm loving
Yeah,
this.
exactly right. All right.
All right, Tash. Well, I'm loving the podcast, but we should probably push this one along, right?
Absolutely. Let's get the show on the road, right?
It's that time again, once again, for an old look at new. Brought to you by Raleigh Winter and Associates, celebrating 55 years. Did you know that in 1962, an Appleton junior high school teacher with a strong work ethic started a residential realty company? His name, Raleigh Winter. 3 generations later, the Winters still hold true to a strong work ethic and an excellent reputation in the community. Today, Raleigh Winter and Associates remain actively involved in providing retail, office, and industrial users an affordable, well-designed working environment through the creation and or acquisition of quality real estate in the Fox cities and even beyond new. So what do you say? Let's take an old look at new.
All right. It is time for the old look at new, that look at history where Joe and I try to see something that catches our eye and we pass it along to you. So, Joe, what are you passing along this week?
Well, Tosh, what caught my eye was something that scrolled across my social media platform somewhere. It was interesting facts of Appleton from 1908.
Okay.
I thought, you know what? I got to read this. This is going to be an old look at new, no doubt about that. In 1908, Tosh, in Appleton, Wisconsin, there were 1,932 telephones. And we had a population of 18,000 at that time. So not too many people had the phone back in 1908. You know where sewer disposal was?
No.
The river.
Yeah, well, I should have figured that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Absolutely. We had 40 daily passenger trains come through. That was kind of cool. And in 1908, we had 32.3 inches of rain. So
Okay.
I don't know if that's good or bad. I'm not even sure what our average is.
Sounds like it's right about average, so maybe a little less.
Yeah, who knows? There were $4 million in bank deposits. And one thing that caught my eye, postal receipts. I guess that's stamps. There were over 40,000 of those, Tosh. So
All right.
I guess our city was well on its way in 1908. Good old applesauce, Wisconsin of 18,000 strong.
Nice.
Yeah, you got to love it. All right, Tosh. Well, that's my old look at new. How about you? What are you taking a look
Well,
at?
This is a cool one. it makes a connection, and I don't think many people know that this actually has taken place. So October 3rd, 1936, somebody by the name of John William Heisman died in New York City. So obviously, if you catch the last name Heisman, major coach.
Strike a pose.
Strike a pose.
Yeah.
He was coach for 36 years at Auburn, Georgia Tech, Rice. In 1915 to 1917, he led Georgia Tech to undefeated for all 3 of those years. And in 1916, he also led them to a 222-0 victory over a college, which is crazy.
Dang.
He also became director of athletics for the Downtown Athletic Club in New York, where the Heisman Trophy has been presented since 1935. But what we might not know is that he was married to a woman from Rhinelander, Wisconsin. And when he died in 1936, his wife brought his body back to Rhinelander, and John William Heisman is actually buried in Rhinelander, Wisconsin.
Well, god dang, Tosh, that is awesome.
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah.
I didn't even know that story. I wasn't even sure how the Heisman Trophy started, who the guy was.
Yeah.
That is really, really cool. I love that.
Yeah, he was a player, both football, coach of football, player in basketball, player, coach basketball. It's pretty crazy. But the trophy was named in his honor when he died because of the connection. Well, connection, all the coach and everything, but also that Downtown Athletic Club. So,
Tosh, I can't help but think, I wonder if Red Smith, who the Banquet is named after, I mean, they had very similar careers, multi-sport coaches, athletes, whatever. I wonder if their paths ever crossed.
I would, you would think that they would have, right?
Maybe. Yeah. Well, I love that one, Tosh. That is awesome. And I know, I'm going to be ahead of the game in this one, Tosh. And I know that our sponsor, Raleigh Winter and Associates, they're going to love this old look at new.
I feel like I try to explain to my parents sometimes because I talk to them normally during the day. It's like they're about to go to bed or whatever, and every time I'm telling them like, oh, I'm here doing this or doing that. They lived in America for a little bit, but it was so little. Like they lived in Fairfax, Virginia, and I try to explain to them like I think every corner of America just has a different culture. Like you're in Fairfax, Virginia, and like that does not explain the Midwest in any way, shape, or form. Like,
No,
we talked to Carsey Blanton a little bit earlier today. Okay. We were talking about, because she tours just like, you all over the place. So you guys see the country. And it's so true, right? There's pockets of just cultures and people and the way they talk and the way they live. It's pretty weird.
It is kind of, I think my favorite has been the South. So far, well, not favorite, I should say, like most interesting, I guess, and closest to home has been the South. I went and spent some time in New Orleans.
Nice.
And like, man, that was awesome. Like
such good food.
Yeah, the good food. I mean, it felt like everybody woke up with an overdose of vitamin D. Like everybody had excitement and like, just ready for the day. And I think maybe just we didn't see all of it, because I know some of the parts like that are very tourist based, like they look a certain way and you're like, oh, this is New Orleans, and it's like, no, you need to see the rest of it. Like maybe some people might not be as jolly as you think, So yeah. So
what do you think of Appleton?
You guys are as jolly as you look.
Yeah.
I mean, I love. So I've like the first time I came to Appleton was like in the winter, right? And we were playing a show in like Gibson Music Hall, and I was like, okay, it's January, like there's a storm out, like there was a storm that day, white out and everything, and I'm thinking, okay, like every Midwest city, like everything is going to be kind of closed and all that. And then to my surprise, like people all the way to the back. Like people came all the way, and I'm like, you know, it's a weekday. It was like a Wednesday, and I'm like, okay, listen, I got a few questions. Who has to work tomorrow? And people are like, yeah, you know, people raise their hand. I'm like, okay, cool. How many people like knew, you know, my music before like coming? Like, you know, because that's be cool. And only a few hands went up.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, so for the rest of everybody, what are you doing here? Like, it's snowing out. You know, it's you probably could be home. You have to shovel when, you know, when it's all done and it's super cold out. Like, what are you doing here? And you have to work tomorrow.
Yeah.
And everybody's like, no, we love live music and everything.
Yeah.
And, you know, then we came back for Fox River House, same reception.
That's
like,
great.
everybody was just so welcoming, so, like, just amped. I'm like, man, I thought you guys were amped in the winter time, and like look at like it's even more than that.
Yeah.
So Appleton is unique. Like, I think there's something in the water. So
It's one of the things we've talked about it. We've done this podcast. We've you know, interviewed different people that have started this the Mile of Music, and
yeah.
it's actually it's legit. And the 11 years has changed the culture because Tosh and I have lived here pretty much our whole life.
Yeah.
We've done a lot of traveling, but live music wasn't always like this. There's maybe been spurts where there's been a month or a year or two where there's been a kind of a cool concert series, but
Yeah.
nothing ever stuck. And then when this came and you understood original music and brought artists like you,
Yeah.
and then it develops to what it is. We're looking outside the window right now at
Right.
people. I mean, it's freaking incredible, but it's more than the 4 days. Iftica said this last night on stage as they were closing out. He said, you know, live music is more than just this weekend, and he's so right.
Yeah.
And that's Appleton's turned
Yeah.
into that. And you know, I know we're, you know, down in your neck of the woods, down in, you know, Kenosha, that area. I mean, it's there's gigs every night,
Yeah.
everywhere.
Yeah, and I think that, you know, so we've talked about it as musicians. We just hang and talk about like how special Appleton itself is, and it's gotten to a point where it feels to me almost like a family reunion. Like Appleton feels like, or
Yeah.
like not just Appleton but Mile of Music especially, because we come back and then we've made friends here. Like all the artists kind of, you know, we, you know, stay in touch after whatever. We split shows when we're on the road, because I'm like, hey, I remember I was, you know, talking to this guy Soul True, and he was playing up in Appleton. He lives in Iowa. I was like, okay, I'm gonna, you know, message him, or he's gonna message me like, yeah, I'm coming up that way, you want to do something? And then you know, summer comes around and we almost have it all booked, whether you're gonna play or not. It's just on the calendar, because you're like, it feels like a family reunion. Whether I'm playing or not, I'm coming. Like I'm coming, and I'm gonna see people, catch up with friends and stuff like that. So I think it's cool that it has stuck. That Mile of Music like has breathed some interesting like life and culture into the city, and you want to see that in every city. You want to see that in, you know, Kenosha, where I live. It's a lot of live music, and there's a lot of really, really amazing artists, and there is appreciation for it. And sometimes you get the feeling that it is not as appreciated, you know, and then that I wish it had that special feeling that you get right when you drive in and you see, you know, D2 speakers. You can hear them from, you know, you can hear them from elsewhere. And, you know, you walk past, you know, Gibson Music Hall, and there's still a line out the door and stuff like that. And like that, and you know full well that there's not one person going to play a song that is, that, you know, is popular, you know, like it's every song you're going to hear is like, from an artist that is doing this because they genuinely love it. And like this is that type of, you want that to spread. I mean, not just throughout the Midwest, but really throughout the, you know, nation and the world in general. So.
And you feel that I believe you probably feel it as a musician. We certainly feel it sitting out there. You feel whatever that is, that connection from your, you know, whatever that thought was in your idea comes out as a song. We're listening to it, and there's a connection when it's being played live. It's an amazing feeling. That I can only imagine you feel that every night with an audience, or just about.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think honestly, you know, you get people at the end, like you get people, you walking down the street and someone stops you and says like, hey man, you played like this song that is like my favorite, and I listened to it, and then we morph into past the music. Like we spent probably 10 seconds on like, man, it made me cry. You guys sounded, and then we don't talk about the sound again. We don't even talk about the show again. It becomes a story about like, you know, what the song sparked or whatever happened. Like, you know, I just lost my, you know, this person, or I just fell in love, or I just, you know, this just happened, or I just, you know, got my heart broken, and like this, you know, is this. And so we're not even talking about the song anymore. We're just talking about, you know, life, that connection that we're just, you know, we're just having. And then all the way at the very end, it's like, yeah, anyway, that song, that's super cool. You realize you've been talking 10 minutes and you forgot even what song you started off with. And, you know, it's really cool. So, yeah.
Going back to you, you know, when did you know that music was something that really was an interest to you, that this is something you wanted to continue doing?
Like, oh man, that's a tough question. You know, that's a tough question. Because I think at first it looked cool, right? And I share this story sometimes. I started playing guitar to impress this girl I really liked. I was like, man, you know, I didn't even remember what we were talking about. She just said,
Did it work?
No.
Okay.
Not even close. You know, she just said, you know, I really like guitar players. And I'm like, come on. Okay. Like, okay, well, I guess I have to, you know, go and do some homework, and, you know, and I went YouTube, and I, you know, like, okay, let me look up like the songs that I really love. And at the time I listened to John Mayer a lot. So, I went and, you know, pulled out Slow Dancing in the Burning Room, and I'm like, I'm going to play this song. Terrible song to play for a crush, but like, I'm gonna learn this song. And it sounded like garbage. Like I didn't have any, you know, calluses or anything. My fingers hurt for like weeks on end trying to get it right. And I played it for her, and I made all sorts of mistakes, and she's just like, oh, that was fine. And I'm like, you know, and, you know, it's like, it just always seemed like a thing that like, oh, it would be really cool to be, to have this thing that I can do. But honestly, the calluses started to form, and I fell so much in love with like playing. I fell so much in love with like, just joining a whole bunch of people that could play and had this like deep love for music and the connection to it. And I just dove deep, and I just kept going. Still wasn't anything that I was like, oh, I want to be a musician when I grow up. Went to Carthage College. Actually, that's where I did my very first like band. I kind of got some friends together, and we were going to do like a talent show type of thing. And they joined me, Justin Hall, who actually still plays with me today, and Suresh Graff and Jody Monk. And we got there, and we started doing these songs by this band that we all collectively really, really love, Need to Breathe. Yeah. And we get on there, we perform, and the song we played, I believe, was Something Beautiful. And we rearranged it in a way that, you know, we've seen the band live. They have this authenticity about them that when they play, it's like, wow, like, man, this is amazing. You feel connected right away. And so we rearranged it in a way that connected to us. And yeah, and you know, these people came up and were like, man, was that Need to Breathe? And they were like, yeah, it was Need to Breathe. And they're like, God, I don't know, like I just felt different, like I really connected. And I think that connection that I had with those people and like with that moment is really what sparked the whole like, hey man, like it's not necessarily that I wanted to be a musician, it's that I want to connect people to people like this, right? It you know, that was the different part about it. And after that, it was easy because I don't, you know, we all can all connect on all sorts of different level, happiness, joy, heartbreak, poverty, you know, all the things we can connect on all those levels. And it's just how we communicate it. And after that, I was like, okay, we can do this. And 2019 is when I started writing my own music. And I think One Onawe was one of the first songs I wrote. I was going through a pretty terrible time myself. I was getting my green card, which I, you know, I'm, you know, have it now and everything. Right. And process took forever. Do not wish it on anyone. But in that moment, I felt like people were there with me, even though they didn't know what was going on and they didn't know even how to help or even how to be there, because it's a very complex problem, you know. But I wrote that song and I sang it really just for myself. And then, sure enough, 2020 was waiting around the corner for everybody, right? You know, to remind them what it does mean to be there for someone, and that what the song is about. And after that, this is what I want to do. I mean, I just don't think that there's any other thing I want to do as badly as this. So,
Yeah.
You can tell in your music where it's coming from. You can feel it when you sing and you're listening to it, whether it's in the car, whether in your backyard, whether you're playing it live. It has a feeling, and that really does come out. It's amazing.
Thanks. Appreciate that.
We asked Eric Krieger this question too, but we wouldn't wish COVID ever, to come. It was a terrible time, but for the musicians, it seems like you guys really thrived, or it seems like a lot of musicians thrive. Like you found, maybe you rediscovered your creativity, maybe you rediscovered another instrument. Some of them have said, I mean, you guys did what you do and just create and make music. And I feel like it was a really, really good time from that standpoint. Like the music changed, got better.
Yeah.
It got distributed differently too, even on social media and things like that.
Yes. I think you're right. I would not wish for that time period to come back. No one wants 2020. I think everybody wants to, collectively forget what happened. But I do think it's a good point. It's not necessarily that, we thrived. Maybe that's a good word. But I think that really as a world in general, not just in music, we slowed down.
Yeah.
And I don't think that we do that enough. Even now, I mean, I think everything's coming back to pretty normal. Maybe in some spaces, it's pretty much back to normal, right? But you almost see the world that was before 2020, where everybody felt like a god, like everybody felt indestructible and was just moving at breakneck speed. But you do see the result, because you do see a lot of anxiety coming back, a lot of those things that are stress related coming back. And I don't mean, there was a ton of anxiety in 2020, but like a lot of the problems that are like, man, I haven't taken a break, I haven't like just slowed down enough to, say hi to a friend or take a phone call from my mom, or, my mom leaves me like 5 missed calls and it's like, are you okay? Are you dying? I'm not dying. I'm just trying to say hello. And, it's those things that feed us, and it's those things that feed everybody. And I feel like in 2020, you had no choice. You had to slow down, and I feel like you almost got force fed in that moment. So if there was an anxiety that you were putting off, if there was a fear that you were putting off, you had no choice but to sit with it, because there was nothing else going on. So I think that is again, I don't wish it to come back,
We're glass half full guys.
Yeah, right. But I do hope that we did learn something from it.
Right. And it's just interesting looking back on that time and just thinking back about that. It's just, we're curious creatures, us humans.
Yeah.
So if we rewind all the way back to the beginning, you're in Uganda. What's life like in Uganda? I mean, what's your growing up years or early on? And was there music in the house? I mean, were you were always exposed to music early? Yeah. Was it different music? I mean, was Ugandan music? I'm not even sure what that is exactly.
Yeah. No, it is. It is like normal music, but it is tribal. We had a lot of tribal songs, and a lot of our culture, even in storytelling, is very melodic. We sing song. We all sit together and tell stories, and almost every story has a song to it. It's almost like a Disney thing, but that's besides the point. My mom and my dad actually met in college, and they had their own band. Yeah, and they refuse to talk about it, but there are pictures, unfortunately for them. And they look cool. They look really cool. But they used to play, and they used to play in church. They used to play outside of church as well, but very specifically Christian music. And for us in the house, my dad wanted us to learn how to play keys. I did not have the patience and discipline. And I hate that little boy or that I was that could not sit down for 5 minutes, to practice or to do any of that. I just couldn't sit still like that. And he got this teacher who was our uncle, one of those people you call uncle and not your uncle. But he was like, the one that they hired is like, this is going to be the guy. And he didn't read music. He was just a by ear type of situation. And it was cool though, because he would play us a song and he'd show us the chords and he would show us everything and then play a little bit of the radio and so like, okay, what'd you hear? Go ahead and play it. And that's somewhat how I learned. So like even guitar is more just I listened, I like learned a few frames. My sister showed me a few chord progressions. She knew a little bit. And then we went from there. Everything.
So you're by ear? I mean, you're just learning by ear and
that's
just
yeah.
hearing the mistakes and fixing them?
Yeah. And, I think it allowed me to come up with unconventional people. I know there's other people that do it, but people always watch me play, and I play my bar notes with my thumb all the time.
I was watching that today.
Yeah.
I had a good look at it.
Yeah, and people are like, yeah, you're not. I'm like, it has worked, and I am not going to fix it. So you figure out how you need to process that, but I am not going to. I can't do that. It's way too late, maybe.
It's so interesting and cool because some of the greatest guitarists, I believe, have their own unique style. That they aren't like textbook, and even other sports. A golfer's swing is different.
Right.
It's just different, but it works. For them.
It is what works for you, and I think that bleeds all over. It goes in, either how you write or how you play, how you sing. It is what works for you, and what works for you is influenced by what we were talking about. Background, whatever. So in my household growing up, or in my dad's household growing up, we told a lot of stories and we told a lot of this. So that informs how I write. I love telling stories when I'm writing.
And your stage presence is that way as well,
right? Because that's what you lean into who you are and what works for you. And then
I love that.
Why would you try and do something different, to be,
right.
Doesn't help anyone.
No, not at all.
No.
Yeah. How long were you in Uganda? How old were you when you moved to the U.S.? What was that transition like?
Yeah, I was, so my dad worked for World Vision. He moved around kind of all over the place and then ended up moving us around. But I came to the U.S. when I was 19. I lived in Uganda all my life.
Yeah.
So actually, funny enough, Wisconsin is about to be is about to be the first longest place I've ever lived.
Wow.
It's like 2 years away or a year away from that. But I lived in Uganda until I was about 14, 15, moved to Kenya. Lived there until I finished high school, and then moved here, and then I went to college here. But growing up there is very different than living and growing up here.
Right.
And man, from food to music to the people, all of it's super different. Now, as we mentioned earlier, every town I feel like, or every city and every state in the U.S. has its own culture, has its own thing about it. And I think the closest thing to Uganda that I found in America is New Orleans. The heat, yes, but the heat in the food, the heat in the air, the people, their vibrant energy and things like that. That's probably the closest. The smells, all that stuff. Moving here was such a it was so jarring. I'd always tell this story. I've told this story once. We don't have pets people have pets in Uganda as well now, but growing up we didn't necessarily have a pet. I mean, we had a pet dog because that's what you called it.
Okay.
But it was locked in the kennel all day.
Sure.
And then we got more of them. It gave birth, and we had all these dogs. We had a massive amount of dogs, but they were not pets. They didn't enter the house. We didn't play with them. We played with them if they were outside, and we needed to put them back in the kennels. They were all guard dogs, right?
Yeah.
And we have affection for them. They kind of live in the compound with us, so it's like it's fine. But when I came here, I saw like that alone was a culture shock for me. Like how people love their dogs. Like I was just like, what is like okay, you know? And I remember it was December. And it was, snowing outside, and we were driving around. My dad was trying not to drive on the right-hand side of the road. And I'm like, okay, Dad, you need to, like, what are you doing? Stop looking around, stay, please, like, just stay. We're driving on the wrong side of the road. Keep that in mind. And we saw this gentleman just taking his dog out for a walk, and the dog stopped, to go to the bathroom. And we thought, oh, no, what is going to happen? Because for us, when our dogs went in the bathroom, it was a morning chore to ride around the wheelbarrow with sand in it and scoop up the poop and then throw it in the compost. Like that was like a job, like a chore for us. And this was on the pavement, man. So I was like, I'm like, maybe in the US they have like a dog cleaning service, right? Like maybe this car is gonna come along and like whoop, like, and keep driving. And I'm like, man, that sucks for that guy. And he had his hand in his pocket the whole time. And so we were far enough, like, to, like, not necessarily know what was going on. Just kind of have a blurry picture thing. He has his hand in his pocket. Dog is done, kind of walks off or walks a little bit away. And the man, like, leans over and just picks up the dog dropping. Now, obviously, we couldn't see the doggy bag around his arm that he used. Like, the whole time, we're freaking out. Like, we're thinking, like, this love has gone too far. Like, there's no way that you couldn't pay me money, And so that was just, that was a big cultural moment. I remember, like, all of us screaming in the car, like, like, and we see him like throw it like in the trash. You were just like, oh my gosh, that's the worst thing I've ever seen. And but obviously we found out a lot later that they are doggy bags that you wear around your arm. We're like, thank God, like, because that was one of the things that we. I remember I marked in my memory to say like, man, America is super, super different. But we got used to it. The winters have become a little bit easier. The summers are fine. I mean, they remind us of home. Everything feels really good. And
do you miss home? I mean,
all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, come on.
That's what I figured that. And did you ever get to go back? I mean, is that...
Actually, yes.
Okay.
I took my wife for the first time last year, and we went in January and we went in July. And I told my wife, so I'm normally pretty good at keeping a lid on my temper. Like I would say one might think I don't have one even, but it's not that. I do have one. But my wife was like, man, like, I feel like I'm about to like learn more about you. And I told her like, hey, listen, the whole time we've been dating, the whole time we've been married, there's nothing that I have told you that has prepared you for what you're about to see today or to this next couple of weeks.
Yeah.
There's nothing that I could tell you even now that would like prep you for what you're about to experience. I just want you to know that going in. Different culture, different everything. And knowing that as a person that has experienced culture shock, there's not much that you can tell a person to prepare them for a culture shift.
Yeah.
So we land, and she's just like, immediately people are different. People take their time, laissez-faire. Like, people are just like, time is not necessarily, it's just, it's just something. Like, people don't care too much, show up late to stuff all the time, whatever. And next day we're driving through downtown Uganda. And I mean, just imagine like the scene from like, the Matrix when like Neo enters like Zion for the first time and like the sensory overload that is, that.
Yeah.
And, we're driving downtown, cars are like right next to each other, people like on borders, the motorcycles like cruising right by you, and people crossing the road and we're no crossing, people just flying through stop signs and traffic lights. And she's like, so you just don't look at traffic lights? And I'm like, if there's no officer, the traffic light doesn't work. Just keep going. Just don't even worry about it. And she's like, how are you driving through this? Like, how you have no road rage? Like, what is going on? This is the worst thing I've ever seen. And after a while, she's like, I get it. I understood. Like, your emotional rubber band has been stretched so far that, like, it would take a catastrophic event for you to absolutely lose your shit. Like, it's just, I'm sorry, to lose your mind. Like, it's just, it would, I understand. I'd, like, finally get why when you came, over to America, you're like, that's good. Yeah. Like, it will 100% focus you from like, oh, you got a cold coffee? Just go and warm it up or ask for a different one. Just don't point, like, getting emotional about it. Like, so yeah, I think that's been kind of my experience being here, and I've enjoyed it. I still enjoying it.
Was it a habit? You had a break. You had mentioned that 19 years you lived there. The late for things, the kind of nonchalantness maybe of life, was that hard to break? Did you have that when you?
Oh man, I still have it.
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering about.
No, I still have it. Man, we were supposed to meet at 3, and I texted you and I'm like, I'm running behind. I've just gotten really good at that.
Yeah,
that's an art.
I totally get that.
It's not that I show up on time. It's that I just have to be really good at communicating, because I know I'm going to be late. Yeah. I just know it. And if I need to be on time, I have to operate on like a time shift. Like, I have to trick myself into thinking like, okay, I have to be there at 3, so that means I have to be there at 2. So that means I have to leave here, at 12. You know what I mean? It doesn't, if I have to stop and get a coffee, before just to be on time, so be it. But I'm not going to try and be there at 3, because then I'll be there at 4. So
exactly.
So yeah, it's just an adjustment.
It's cool that you found kind of a hack for getting around to just communicate with people.
You kind of have to. You guys are on time all the time. Yeah. I was late like 3 times on things, and
well, you'd be surprised, dude. I kind of live your life a little bit.
Really?
I can be, these guys are very nice to work around my schedule quite often.
Yeah, that's good. He's good. Have you guys grown up in Appleton all the time?
Eric and I have known each other since 7th grade. We've been, just
oh,
buddies
wow.
forever.
It's been a long time.
Sure. Tosh is the one that... he always had the best CD collection, so we listened to a lot of music together. And I don't play an instrument, but I just love music. You spoke earlier, you kind of that communication of music. I weirdly feel that, even though I don't play an instrument, but I understand what you're talking about. And I think it even spoke to me early on in life. And he always just had, just a wide variety of music, Frank Sinatra on Sunday mornings and, things like that, so... What we were talking about, you kind of sound a little bit maybe like there's some Ben Harper in you or something, and went through a long phase of listening to a lot of Ben Harper, So I don't know. I love music and just there's just so much of it. It's hard. We've asked some of the other artists like how would you describe what music you play, and there really isn't a description, I don't think.
No,
for
that's a complex question.
It is,
You'd need a lot more time than we have. You'd need quite a bit of time. I think that how do you describe it? It depends the song.
Yeah.
Number one. I think that's an honest answer. Is it depends the song. I think it depends on how we start. It depends on the people on stage with me. I've been lucky enough to find some guys that I just like trust with my life, and they have been really cool at just translating. Everything I do, I try and put like what my roots are in it. You know, so it's hard to play let's say a pop song is a little bit easier, but like let's say a blues song, and put an Afro beat in there. but then here comes this magician of a drummer, Raphael, that I play with. That he's like, I think we could do something, you know. And then he comes up with some just amazing, you know, rendition of a Afrobeat that I like, and then he adds blues in there. Bam, it's done. And you know, so I think, you know, John Blesson, who's been on bass with me for the last couple months, has been just really, really cool. He just gets on there, and he's just a bass connoisseur, and he starts playing something, and he's like, well, but you want it to sound a little bit like, you know, like an Afrobeat. Well, bam, here you go. What do you guys think of this? And, you know, and I'm like, okay, how about like if we do something or play something on the guitar? He's like, oh, you mean did? So I'm like, yep, that's exactly that will work, you know. And Zeph, Justin, you know, just amazing people at their craft, and again, it takes a level of trust to them be able to go past a genre, go past a whatever, and just trust that, like, you know, there's a sound that we're looking for, or there's a sound that he's trying to communicate, and like, let's make it. And so we don't even begin to talk about genres really anymore.
And maybe you don't even have to. I think most of the music I like, I don't even know how to describe it. I just know it when I hear it. Is that almost the best part of this whole ride, is just when you're with your bandmates and you're searching for that, just coming together and finding that whatever that is you're looking for in that song? Or it's probably just playing
the
live.
best part is it's a part that I like. Sometimes it's not the best part because I think that, you know, any songwriter, maybe they won't tell you, maybe they will tell you. I think they will tell you. You have to be a little bit selfish with just how, you know, making your music or writing your song, and I think you also have to be a little bit selfless to say, like, oh, well, you know, this is a group project, you know. You can write it for yourself if you want, but you better not ask those guys to play it, you know. You know, if you have something so specific, you know, I think it would be unfair. And I think that once you trust people to include them in the process, whatever they bring, their background's not the same as your background, so you kind of have to lose the ego, and you have to lose the self there a little bit, to say, okay, you know, let's do it this way, see how it turns out. But again, I love these guys that they're able to say, like, is this what you want?
How far is the song developed before you bring it to them? Like, where are you in that process when you're at least comfortable to bring it to the band?
So, you know, as far as like chords, I'm never attached to them too much. I have a very hard time writing on guitar. So I don't actually write on guitar. I write on like drums or keys or bass. I write on one of those things. Yeah. Because if I start writing on guitar, I'm going to play the same thing that I played, you know, the same chord structure, things like that. So because I'm not a drummer, I'm not attached to whatever beat I came, as long as the foundation is the same, right? You know, as long as I don't care. You know, I'm not a keys player. I'm not a bassist. I play bass for a couple other bands stuff, but I wouldn't call myself like, you know, John shows up, please give him the bass. Don't give me the bass, you know. So I think because as soon as I have that, I bring it to them. And say, this is how the song sounds. My feelings are not going to get hurt. I'm not a drummer. I'm not a bassist. I'm not a keys player. I'm just going to sit down on guitar. Now, if I've written it on guitar and I really like it there, I think we've gotten to a point where I'll play a song and they'll come in and feel it out and be like, ooh, how about we do this? I feel like every time they say, how about we do this, it's better than what I've been doing.
Right. Wow.
So I'm like, yes, let's do it.
Hey, Newsa-Cast listeners, help us grow by subscribing wherever you get your pods or sharing the Newsa-Cast. Follow us on Facebook, X, TikTok, or Instagram. Northeastern Wisconsin Sports Advancement is a 501c3 organization. Our mission is to raise money, provide support, and bring greater awareness for youth sports organizations in Northeast Wisconsin. We do this primarily through the Red Smith Sports Award Banquet and the Newsa-Cast. Each year, we give back to the community through 3 initiatives: the Every Kid Plays Grant, the Gives Back Initiative, and scholarships to student athletes. Your process then for the lyrics, for the actual song, getting it from your head to the to the paper to the stage. What is that like for you? And are you spilling out ideas all the time? Are you how do they get out of your head? How do you get that developed, the lyrics?
Man, it has been, I'm telling you, it's still a journey. At least for me, it's still a process that I'm trying to refine. The things that have been pretty successful for me is removing myself, let's say go in a cabin or go somewhere, completely detached and just literally write. So I think one of the processes that I've worked on is write down just everything. Like write down the what you're feeling, what you want to write about.
Is that a journal, like in a paper?
Yeah,
You use
sure.
it in a notes app?
Yeah, just a journal.
Yeah.
A book. And then read it back aloud, like just read it back. And the point you try and make over and over again, that's your hook. Yeah. That's your chorus. That's the point you keep trying to repeat, that's it. However you try to say it, those are your verses. And so that's really the process that has worked for me so far. Unknowingly, it could take a day for you to say what you want to say, and, you might get to the end and think, I think I've said enough. And then your brain's like, nope, we're not done, and then you write again. And then, but the easy part is to come back and edit to say, like, what am I trying to say?
Yeah.
This is what I'm trying to say. Okay, this is how I've said it. I've said it this way, this way, this way, this way. This way didn't really make sense. Let's leave that alone. This made sense to me, but maybe not to somebody else. And then you edit. And that's how I've at least have written.
Sure.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite place to write and just do that process?
No. The one place that I went to once was Chippewa Falls.
Okay.
Was really cool. I think that it was just a cabin with Airbnb, and but otherwise any coffee shop will do.
Yeah.
As long as no one is bothering you.
Sure.
Yeah. It'll work. As long as your phone is off and you really are just in your head for a little while. You didn't have to go, 200 miles away.
Right.
You can be right here on the street as long as you're able to detach. And so cabin will make it easier to detach. But otherwise, if you can do it in your living room, sure. That's where you're going to do it.
Did you ever write in Uganda?
What was that?
Did you write in Uganda songs?
No.
Okay.
No.
So I think I read or I heard that you built your own studio.
Yes.
For your last, how was that process, and how has that changed what you do? You have a place now.
Yeah. Jesus. So 2020, we buy a house, and I'm so glad things worked out. I really love it. I walked into the space and I knew right away. I was like, yeah, we're gonna make a studio right here. Hadn't put a bid in for the house and everything, and I tried not to seem too excited or seem too like eager, because I was like, man, if it doesn't pan out, if it whatever. So I was just like, okay, if this is the one, it will be the one. If it's not, fine. But I'm really hoping that this is it. And as soon as everything was signed, we moved into the house. Might have been like 1 week. I helped move stuff in so quick. My wife was like, man, you're moving so quick. Like, let's figure out where. I'm like, listen, we need to put the stuff together because I have other plans, and as soon as we were able to do that, thankfully it was COVID, so there was nothing really else, in a way. That's when I started building it. The process took forever. I did a lot of barter trading, a lot of bargaining for all the things that I used to put the stuff together. YouTube was my friend because putting drywall together, as self-explanatory as it might look, there's a good way to do it, there's a proper way to do it, and there's a great way to do it. Mm-hmm. And then my father-in-law is actually a contractor, so when he would come and visit, he would show me some techniques and stuff. But I would try and busy the weekend because I didn't want him to help me. I hope he hears this one day. But I was hoping don't try and touch stuff. Just show me how to do the thing, and then I will do it. Let me do it, because I really wanted to grow as well. And so working on the studio after the first couple of weeks, just in concept, I started building the studio. I was 220 pounds, 215 pounds. And by the time I was done with it, I was like 190. Like, you know, like,
it's a good workout.
Yeah, oh my God. Yeah. I mean, you know, like, and it showed, and it, you know, and I have videos of like day one versus like, you know, when I was done. And, at some point it moved from building a studio to building myself and to working on myself. And, man, I got so attached. I made so many mistakes. I put a screw through my thumb for a second. I electrocuted myself.
Yeah. That'll teach you.
That sucked. So I finished the studio. I think it took me about probably 4 months.
Okay.
Finished the studio, and it's beautiful. And I decided that's where I was going to record my first full album.
Yeah.
And I was going to record it in there. And that's where I actually wrote Levitate, the song. And I've not recorded that one yet. But it's about, I was painting at some point, and it doesn't have functioning windows. I hadn't put them in yet. And I closed the door, and the fumes built up, and the floor started to do this whole thing. And
some of the greatest songs have been written that way.
Oh yeah, it felt like that. That is funny. Yeah, that's true. That is true. But yeah, and it's been a journey, and I'm in there all the time now, and it feels like that's the real house. But no, I'm also in the home as often as I can be.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
What touring and just upcoming over the next year for you? And we're coming to the end of the summer, fall holidays are coming up. And what's your fall schedule like? What's the tour schedule like?
Yeah.
I mean, you've got a busy schedule as well. It's amazing. All the artists we've talked to at Mile, you guys keep an incredible schedule. I mean, you really do. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
The amount of travel and the amount of gigs you play in a year.
Water, lots of water is how we do it. I would say, you know, coffee and all the other things. But my fall schedule is filling up a little bit. I always try and plan a fall tour. It's not finalized for me yet, but
are you booking the gigs, or how are you setting up that fall tour and routing it? Are you doing that work?
Yeah, I'm doing a bit of the work, and I work with an amazing company called ACA, and they're based out of Milwaukee as well. So they help me get in contact with a lot of some really good vendors, and then some of them are just kismet. People will, you know, write me and say, hey, you know, are you in the area? Can you know, we want to book this gig. And but one of the ones I'm truly excited about actually is 20 Front Street in Michigan. An amazing venue that I'm excited to play. But so when something like that happens, I try to build a tour around it. And because it's in Michigan, which is on the other side of the lake, I wanted to do either a frown tour or a smile tour.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
You know, so I wanted to do a home tour leading up to, because the way that the fall is and the way that the actual venue is very intimate, like collection type of thing. So I thought, like, why not get some practice and do some intimate house tours all the way around and play some intimate shows all the way up to, you know, make it a smile tour. Or we can go up to Canada and come back down and make it a frown. So, but that show is, that tour is kind of still being finalized. And then the rest are shows that festivals, like some fall festivals, I can't necessarily, because they're not confirmed. I can't. I can't say. But yeah, those are.
We're coming to find out that the festivals are sort of a different thing, aren't they? I mean, the touring and kind of the gigs that you're setting up is kind of one way of life, and maybe Mile of Music weekends and other festivals is a little bit different for you guys. And
yeah, they are, and I think. You can have favorites. I think yes. I think the festivals are much easier and can become a bit, at least my favorite, because you're meeting new people.
Yeah.
They're people that you wouldn't otherwise have met.
Right.
You know, because they just come to the festival because of its name or where it is.
Yeah.
You know, people just come. The house shows, intimate show, the shows that you actually have to plan and put, you know, a promotion structure around and like all those things can be tedious to get a good show. You know, like you have to push social media, you have to drive it, and you have to look at kind of like the home situation. How far is it from where you are? Which people do you know? Which people can locally that you can kind of connect with prior to, you know, to drive the show, and just really trying to get your music there so that there's some places that people just love music like Appleton that they're gonna come, but you can't assume that's everywhere.
Right.
So you have to put a lot of work in, and you know, I think I talked about Mbozi earlier. The song that I played earlier.
Right.
And that's the stuff that you will forget that this is about music.
Yeah.
Because you're like, man, this feels like a full-time job. Like, it just feels like a...
It is amazing what goes into playing music, isn't it? I mean, there's almost so much more than the music, but it's just the music drives it. What flows through the blood, right? Through the veins.
Yeah. So and again, this sometimes it's easy because, you know, if you play a song and someone enjoys it, it tells somebody else and they say, hey, we're gonna go to this show. Yeah. And it's that easy.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's not easy. It's getting them to say, hey, can I distract you for 1 minute from you being distracted for you to listen to this?
Right.
And then just pray to God that person has a long enough attention span to...
Yeah. Do you have a preference playing like solo with your band? Today a Copper Rock was something, I don't know if it's completely different, but you played with the Lawrence. I don't even know I forgot what they were called.
The Lawrence Chamber Festival.
Yeah, right. Do you have a preference? I'm sure you enjoy it all, but do you prefer one over the other?
It depends on mood.
Okay.
I know that's not like it's not. I'm not trying to dodge a question, but it really does.
It's not a very good question.
Yeah, I think no. I think it depends the mood. I think that there are some venues that you already know what it is. Like you already know what's what's coming, and you would prefer to be solo. You know, you know the type of people that are going to be there, and so you want a closer connection, and a closer connection is much easier to come to when you're by yourself. You know, when you're with the band, there's a lot of energy there, and the energy turns into all sorts of different things, excitement, people wanting to listen, more breaks, a solo here, and it's not as intimate, I would say. We're still together, but it's a different together, so I think it depends. And also depends the season. Summertime, I don't want to play solo. I mean, it's great, but I don't want to play solo. I love it. I will do it, because you still create those moments.
Sure.
But it's also summertime, and it's a party atmosphere. In the fall, I want to play solo. I want to play with the full band too. Don't get me wrong, but a fall solo show where we all can get a little cozy and get that's a really good feeling too. So.
How long have you played with those guys? You really seem like you have, at least your stage. Yeah. It appears that you guys just have your own language and kind of connect really well.
So with John, I'll start with the person I've played the least with. So Zeph, that was Zeph's second show with us.
Okay.
Believe it or not, the electric player.
Yeah.
And with John, we're going on a month and a half.
Okay.
Maybe probably less than 10 times.
Yeah.
Playing with us. With Rafi, we met at a wedding. Believe it or not, that was a wedding in 2019.
Okay.
And he came up. Was it 2021? Maybe actually, it might have been 2021 even. He came up and he was like, "Hey man, listen, I don't know you. I don't know what's going on, but I feel like we have to play together."
Yeah.
And from then on, we're brothers. Like, we work together even outside of this now. Like, he works at like where I work, and it's just gotten to a point where like I can have a thought, and almost a second after, like Rafi's like, "You think we should do?" Yup. Yeah. It's just like, that's awesome. Yup. And then Justin, I have known, I think I told you guys earlier, 21 hours, I have known one of my oldest friends in Wisconsin, that's probably cool. My oldest friend in Wisconsin now. And I've played with him since college.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've been together 8 years now. Yeah. Yeah.
Kind of when you know, I guess, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And again, we kind of joke around. Which probably a lot of musicians will tell you this too. Is it's when you have chemistry with the people you play with, whether it's the first time or the 100th time you played, it's gonna sound good.
Yeah.
You know, if you don't have chemistry, whether it's the first time or the 100th time, it's gonna sound bad. You know, like it doesn't matter.
Yep.
It sucks that it's true. You know, but if you don't have that that trust that you can just say like, I know this guy. We might have just met outside, but I know this guy. You can play.
I told you about an hour. We're already over an hour and a half.
Oh, no, that's fine. No, I talked to you guys forever, man. Thank you guys so much for having me. Like, this is pretty cool.
This is awesome.
You know, we're predominantly, we talk kind of sports and things like that, but Eric and I just love music. We always have. And,
that's awesome.
And we kind of feel a connection with, artists and bands and just, we love the stories, and just, it's a fascinating story, to put yourself, there's no scarier, at least in my mind, scarier situation than to put yourself out on stage and you write a song, put your feelings into it. Other people play that, but that's pretty raw. And you can't put yourself out there any more than standing on a stage.
I would say, just to add to that, I think we were just talking about this with a couple of guys who were in the PAC, and it was such a good question. And she's, when do you know that like you can stand on stage and like sing the song? And I was thinking about it, like she asked Thursday, and I was thinking about it all day yesterday. I was like, man, that's like a really good, when do you know? Like, because that sometimes you get on and you're like, man, I was just trying this song out, it's like super new, but I feel like you already know in your mind, your heart. And I think my answer was finally was when you're ready to give it away. I think because I've come to believe that it's no longer your song the moment you play it. Yeah. It's not, you have to give it away. And I think that, if you sing about loss, I think someone can relate to the loss that you're going through, but for them to really connect with the song, they've gone through loss already.
Yeah.
So it's not your song, it's their song now. And so the moment, the moment you're ready to give it away.
That's got to be an incredible feeling for you, though. You created that, right?
Every time. Every time. And I feel like that the song is ready when someone else, when someone receives it. If no one receives it and was I don't know necessarily what was going on, that song, it's not ready yet.
Yeah.
And you just, you want it to be ready, but take it back to the lab. It's not ready yet.
Do people come to you with their interpretation of a song?
All the time.
Is it completely wrong? Does it matter? What
no,
their interpretation is?
What would it matter to me? What would it matter to me if it were wrong? Someone put a picture upside down and you said, that's an amazing picture.
Yeah.
But what does it matter if the artist painted it the other way off? It doesn't. That's how they saw it. That's how they saw it. That's how it's theirs.
All right, Newsa-Cast listeners, welcome to our throwback clip, where we take some clips of the full interviews from the Red Smith Sports Awards. This is a clip from the 2021 virtual banquet. Joe, you had a little connection to this.
Yeah, Tosh, this was fun. We had a great team that helped us with this. Fred Thurston, Mackenzie Clemens, Jeremy Davis. We all pitched in. We work with Muralist down in Oshkosh, and I got tasked with interviewing Sean Rash. So you're seeing a bit of history. It's pretty much my first interview ever, Tosh. So
yeah, that's awesome. Professional bowler, still on the tour today. Quite a story. So check out this clip. But on Sunday, you can check out the entire interview with Joe and Sean Rash on our YouTube channel, where you can hit subscribe and you can check out every one of the throwbacks that we put out.
And we have tons of them, Tosh. So many great people came to the Red Smith Banquet.
Red Smith Sports Awards. Banquet Throwback.
The Red Smith Award, of course, goes to someone who has made some unique contributions to sport in Wisconsin, and also epitomizes the great values that Red Smith exhibited.
Let's give a Red Smith welcome.
Absolutely thrilled to have Sean Rash join us today. Sean, how you doing?
Good. Thank you so much for letting me be a part of something so special to you guys.
Pro bowler, man, what a life you must live. You've got to have some tremendous stories. And tell us a little bit, what's a day in the life of a pro bowler?
Well, right now it's pretty boring, kind of like all sports. But we're getting back towards normalcy here in 2021. 2020 was definitely a tough year in sports and in life in general. But for the most part, I've been doing this for 16, 17 years now. I've traveled 200 plus days a year for over the last decade, except last year, of course. Fly 100, 150,000 miles and drive quite a bit as well, and travel all over the world. So I get to play a game, a sport for a living, and it's pretty satisfying.
You know, you've won all over the world. You have 16 tour titles, 2 majors. Your first title you won, your first major title you won at Miller Park down in Milwaukee, didn't you?
I did, yeah. 2007, a day I'll never forget. Bowled one of my best games ever on television. It was my 4th career title, first major, and just growing up playing baseball in Alaska, baseball was definitely a dream of mine to play as well, and so it would be nice to, get on the mound and maybe pitch for the Brewers or the Cubs, since I am a Chicago guy. But, to be able to have that experience and, bowl in front of, I don't know, there was 5,000 or 6,000 people there that day, and all the people that watched on television sure was pretty special.
You have several 300 games on TV. In fact, the most out of all tour pros, don't you?
Well, there's been some highlights. There's definitely been some downfalls, of course, but I have bowled 2 perfect games on television. There has been a few guys that have done it as well. Just recently, last year, Frankie shot 300 at me, actually, for his second one. He shot one at the U.S. Open also. Wes Malott has done it. Ryan Schaefer has done it. And Chris Barnes has done one here in the States and one in Japan that was on like an extra frame type TV show. But, we're supposed to put on a show, right? Athletes are entertainers. And, like I said, I've had some great moments. I've also had some pretty bad moments. And but that's the entertainment of television and athletes. But nothing that I don't wish didn't happen. When you lose, you find a way to learn from it, and it makes you better next time you're on television.
It's hard to overcome loss, and you have to. And you're doing it at the highest level, and it's a pleasure to watch.
Agreed. Yeah, it's an individual sport, right? So you only see success when you have success, but you learn so much more from failure. You can't win every week. We've got 5 to 10 guys that won last year out of the 14, 15 events we had, and just to be one of those guys who win multiple times was pretty special. But I've lost a hell of a lot more than I've won. That's true for every athlete, every sport. I think of golf. We compare our sport to golf a lot because of the individualism and the traveling and all over the world. But Tiger Woods will go down as one of the greatest of all time, if not the greatest. But he's lost a lot, but he's also won a lot too.
So growing up, you're from Alaska. I'm interested just in your story. How did you become a professional bowler? What was that your junior years leading through high school? When did you decide that bowling was a path for you, and how did that play out for you?
A lot went on in Alaska. It's not a very big place population-wise, but it's the biggest state in the country, of course. Mom and dad bowled once, twice a week, and it's just something our family did every day of the week almost as I started getting older, between 12, 13 years old, and I started to take it seriously. But I had to make a decision between baseball and bowling. I was told I was one of the best, baseball pitchers in the city of Anchorage in my teenage years for Diamond High and the Diamond High Lynx and everything else. But I had to make a choice, play baseball and skip the summer bowling events, or go bowl and make scholarship money and look at a college future. And, fortunately, I think I've made a pretty good choice so far. Money might be different if I would have taken the baseball route, but you can't live off of money. It pays the bills and it makes some people happy. But I've been very, very thoughtful and grateful of all the things that have happened in my life with all the travel I've done. I've been over to 40 different countries. I've met my wife. I have a beautiful family because of this game, and it's taken me so many different directions, and I got a college education of it as well. So, but growing up in Alaska, you only had so many things you could do. Didn't play football, didn't know how to skate. You could only play baseball for a few months a year. You played inside for a couple months, but bowling was year round. And some of the things I always tell my buddies that play all these other professional sports is our temperature is always the same inside. The bowling ball comes back to me and I'm throwing something at some objects. It doesn't get much better than that.
We really appreciate you joining us. Great to get to know you, and best of luck to you in the future. And
thank you again so much to the Red Smith organization for having me on today. And I want to say congratulations to everybody and wish everyone the best when this comes out.
All right, Tosh, another great Red Smith Banquet throwback. Like we say every week, we really have a huge library. Go to the Newsa-Cast YouTube page, and you can find those. Taylor, our editor, he's got them kind of segregated, I guess. We've got broadcasters and people like Sean Rash and Olympians, things like that. So you can discover our library pretty easily at the Newsa-Cast YouTube page. Well, Tosh, it's about time to wrap up this show, but first we got to do a little It's Forgotten and I'm Never Forgetting. So what is forgotten, Tosh, in your world?
Well, as Packer fans, we've come to enjoy runs of people who have been fairly consistent. And the thing that has not been consistent over the last couple years is the Packer kicking game. So yeah. I'd like to forget where we are right now and go back to those times of Mason Crosby and all those consistent kickers we've had, because there was a game lost on Sunday because of two missed field. Well, not just because of the two missed field goals, but
right.
2 missed field goals, 6 points. Yeah, that would have been huge.
It's amazing, isn't it? Yeah. In some senses, it's unbelievable. The kicking game now, I mean, they're blasting 60 yards are like 30-yarders.
Yeah.
It's incredible, but you're right. That's still a narrow goalpost, and our guy is no good right now.
No, definitely not. I mean, we went from, oh gosh, I have to pull back the brain a little bit here. Ryan, Longwell, and then Mason Crosby.
Crosby.
I mean, those are two guys who had some pretty consistent runs. I mean,
they talked about it in the broadcast. Tash. They right away said the wind. No, they didn't bring up the old kickers, but they talked about the wind. But those two guys knew how to kick in Lambeau. It's as everybody knows, the wind swirls. Obviously, there's a lot of wind in Green Bay on some days, so it's not an easy place to kick, no question.
But as a fan, we want to get back to some consistency here, where we can depend on that kicking game to help that team out. So, but you know what? That's just being the armchair quarterback and questioning things. But let's stop questioning. It's pretty
easy to do. It's comfy.
True.
I love it.
We'll stop questioning. Yeah. We'll get on to the to your forgotten, Joe.
Well, Tash, it was brought to my attention, and it's a great forgotten, and it's the age group of 18 to 22-year-olds, and I'm talking about the golfers. We did the Noosa Minute was about the FVA girls golf, and we've got some fantastic golf players. Just people love to play golf, right? You don't even have to be that good at it. But at Reed in particular, and it's a great city course. I grew up on that course. I love Reed. But as soon as you turn 18, you have to pay adult prices. There should be, in my opinion, I don't know even what you call it, but that age group of 18 to 22-year-olds, these kids are broke.
Yeah.
I mean, they have no more money than they did when they probably have less money because your parents probably aren't giving you as much anymore. And they just want to play golf. So it's awfully difficult for that age group in particular to play golf. So they are definitely forgotten. And I'm kind of hoping that maybe Reed and other golf courses, really, I'm sure every golf course is like this. I don't know, I don't even know what you'd call it. Tweeners, whatever you want to call it, but that 4 or 5 year transition group, and those are some of your best customers.
Absolutely.
I bet.
And you do something for them, you'll have lifelong customers for sure.
No doubt. Grow the game, Tosh. Right? Hashtag grow the game. I love it. Well, Tosh, they might be forgotten, but we're never going to forget some things. So, what do you never forget?
Well, there's one season I absolutely love, and this season opened this weekend, and that's the opening of duck season. Duck season's a lot of fun. We made a very nice meal. We had some mallard and some wood duck that I marinated and seasoned and slow cooked over the smoker with some carrots from our garden and potatoes. It was fantastic. But
Tosh, God darn it!
I tell you what, duck season is cool. It's a great. You call them in. It's it takes some work to hit them, and it's a moving target, and it's just you get up there early in the morning before the sun rises, and you're sitting there waiting until the light of day to open up. And the best thing is it's done in a couple hours. And
that's nice.
So, but no.
So are you eating the duck?
Oh yeah, it was fresh.
Yeah.
We had marinated, had garlic from our garden. We had carrots from our garden. We had potatoes. Yeah, it was as farm to table as you can pretty much get.
Oh, that's awesome. Are you, I would assume you are pretty good at, I don't know what you call it, dressing. How do you?
Well, I did a marinade white.
No, like actually you kill the bird. It still has its feathers on. I don't even know what that's called.
We didn't keep the entire duck. We just, we took the breast meat out and.
No, but you do that?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, you can't cook them with the feathers on, Joe.
Who knew?
So yes, we do. So, but yeah, that was fun. I love it. My son loves it. My boys love it. So yeah, it's a good time.
Oh, that's awesome,
and
Tosh.
It's, it's not a season that goes on very long. But I think we didn't have a lot of luck. I think the warm weather kind of played a role in that. I think everything hasn't really moved a lot with the warm weather we've had over the last couple of weeks, but next weekend should be a good weekend. And with it being a little colder, I think we'll see some movement and possibly a few more ducks.
Oh, that's awesome, Tosh. Then it's deer hunting season.
Then it is deer hunting season. Absolutely. Yeah. So Joe, instead of talking ducks, what are you never forgetting?
Well, Tosh, I'm never going to forget. I don't know what the guy's name is, but I meet my buddies once or twice a week at Mateo's for breakfast, and we got treated to a show the other day. There was an older gentleman. He was having a phone conversation with a speaker on, and the whole restaurant heard this guy, and it went on way, way too long. He was just oblivious to everything, and I'm just never going to forget that old people just don't give a flying you know what sometimes, and just don't even care. Let's just have a phone conversation, and it's just you and me.
There you go. You know what? I firmly believe that once you hit a certain age, give a whatever meter you want to call it, basically is broken, and you can do whatever you want. And you know what? You have the right to do whatever you want. So.
Oh, absolutely. Tosh, I think it's in levels, though, because I thought when I hit 50, I really just don't care anymore.
That's true.
But I think there's another level. I think there's definitely another level.
There is another level, for sure. There's definitely levels.
Maybe even two.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's levels. There are levels, no doubt about it.
That's awesome.
All right, well, get that image out of my head, Tosh. But another great show, Tosh. Until next week.
We'll catch you on the flip side. Thank you for listening to another great episode of the Newsa-Cast. We'd really appreciate it if you hit up our social pages, subscribe, like, follow, and don't be afraid to engage. Head over to our YouTube channel to get exclusive content like the full interviews and speeches from the past Red Smith banquets.
A huge thank you to Diggstown for all the music in today's episode. Catch a gig or find them on Spotify.